I tire of idleness. Let's move.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Starfyre Gaming. I am Sir Joseph and this is Warhammer 40k Rouge Trader. We just finished dealing with a prison riot, and now we've kind of got some stuff to loot and some stuff to look at and all that stuff. We pull up the map, we can see there is loot, not everywhere, but scattered all around. So let's examine this. Your eye is drawn to the shards of the enormous lens scattered around the broken device. At first, you are uncertain as to what troubles you, but suddenly, the realization hits you, the glass shimmering in a unique way, just the same way as the shards of the unknown broken object you found near Theodora von Valencius's desk. What's the matter, Lord Captain? Why are you so interested in... Abelard trails off when he notices what you're looking at. He instantly makes the connection. By the Imperium Saints! It cannot be! Adira bites her lip. I see it too. Whatever that thing in her study was, it was made from the same material as this junk. What? Abelard is at a loss for words. He takes a moment to collect himself. And all at once they start pouring out and hastily spurt her. It's a mistake. Slander meant to blemish the good name of a person who is now dead and cannot even defend herself. First, these minions of the archenemy murder Lord Captain Theodora, and now this cannot be tolerated. It will not be tolerated. When he said what, the first thing I thought of was David Tennant, Doctor Who. Come on now, Abelard. Remember what she was like? Adira's smile betrays her grief, but at the same time, it is strangely knowing. Brazen, assertive, it was like her entire life was a race against fate until fate caught up with her in the end. She would have gone head first into a black hole if she had thought it would put her even one step ahead of everyone else out in the expanse. If we could just find out what she was keeping in her desk and why she went to get it during the attack. Sister Argenta's beautiful face is full of grief. How bitter it is to know that you were born from bad blood, but do not let this knowledge drag you into darkness. The sister's words ring with a genuine, sincere hope that you be blessed with a worthier fate. She does not appear to be shocked by the news of Theodora's possible heresy. Life must be so easy for you, you sanctimonious creatures. A dubious trinket, and you no longer see a person. You see bad blood, an annoying hindrance. There's enough venom in Idra's voice to poison an entire regiment. Argenta recoils at the moment, but the next moment, her dark eyes ignite with fury. How dare you admonish me? We are speaking of abetting the arch-enemy. A person who has tainted themselves, thus can never justify their actions. Sure, why go through all the trouble of trying to make sense of anything when you can just label them a heretic and call it a day? Except, dear friend, I seem to remember that you didn't mind Theodora so much while you were aboard the ship. You didn't leave her side for even a moment. She rescued you, aided you, and your adoration wilted the moment you heard an accusation sullying her memory. You weren't surprised or upset. You just gave up on her and moved on. Yeah, we're not going to get in the middle of these two. Yeah, we looked at that already. Some loot. We got a noble sword. We got a precise laser pistol. Improved. Oh, that all stuff looks good. All right, let's see here. The axe actually does more damage. Less AP to swing. Attacks with sword cost 1 extra AP. On a hit, the sword's attack inflicts disturbed effect on the target for 2 rounds. If the target of the attack is already suffering from disturbed effect, the attack deals additional damage to the target. Most warriors prefer swords, for they provide more flexibility in the battlefield against close combat enemies. Plus 10% parry, that's nice too. It's disturbed. Each attack inflicts a minus 10 penalty to any willpower or fellowship tests. I don't like the fact that it costs 2 AP to strike. That means if we use charge and strike, then we've used up all of our AP and we can't use endure to limit the damage coming back our way. But we do get plus 10% parry. Let's hold off on that for right now. Precise laser pistol. Let's see, stubber does more damage. Better armor penetration. Not as good rate of fire. Better range. Not as good ammo, though we don't use it very often. An additional single shot. And a deadeye shot. I think we'll keep the stubber. 39 dodge, 20 improved armor. We're going to hang on to what we got. Does a little more damage. You know what? I'm not gonna keep the cargo. Faux hammer with its rending shotgun attack. I like it. We're gonna keep that. Hydra. Okay, the precise last pistol is better than the last pistol. 40, 45, and this is definitely better than what you're wearing. All right. Where's Iconoclast? Yeah, we'll put that on him. Your skin crawls as you approach this place. However, there does not appear to be anything of note. Bunch of axes. Send all those to cargo. Las gun and a flak chest plate. Regular las gun. This one's yeah, this one looks better, so we're going to put that there. 21, 21, 25, 15. So what we got on is better. 18, 18, 25, 10. What he's wearing is better. 22, 15, 10. The armored body glove is better. Like the dodge, it's much higher. 30, 30, 15, 10. So whatever he's got is better. You go cargo. She's got that crappy laser pistol. Let's get her a laser rifle. charged up revolver. Everybody's got one, so we can throw that. The mutilated man does not stir, bound in his shackles. The plaque nearly reads, Most Holy Prophet and Optimate Atai Shan. Crippled man's appearance is ghastly, yet even there's evidence he was cared for after his mutilation.
Follow my lead.
We don't have anybody with us.
Onward.
Oh, that's not... No, go back there. Go back. All right, who are we missing? Adira. Where are you, Adira? There you are.
Yes.
There we go. Take both of those. So that's what he's got. This is better. And this is probably better than that. Yeah. 18, 20, 25. All right, so this can go. Dead dude up here.
A new challenge for me.
And goods. Alright, you just need to use theirs light. Now everybody's got a good, well, a decent ranged weapon. Alright, it's just over here.
I'll lay claim to the stars.
The whispers told me
Shabidra.
how. Over.
The evidence suggests this victim was killed by poisonous gas. The glass-making furnace was used to melt and extract shards into glass, or sand into glass, one of those two. Got some grenades. Let's do a fire grenade, force grenade, force grenade. Yeah, fire grenade. All right, let's bail. We got all the loots.
Victory
I
awaits.
think we should talk to Evan here. Nope. All right, let's head out. Your lordship, the rebellion has been crushed. I have news of your lord. She anxiously pitches forward. Is Lord Winterscale alive? Is he all right? He is safe and in one piece. I shall receive him as a guest on my ship, so ready your shuttle. There is visible relief on the pilot's face. Clicking her heels together, she cheerfully barks out, "Consider it done, your lordship. Thank you for the good news." Alright, let's head back to the ship. Permission to report, Lord Captain. Over the past few days, I received several messages from different decks, complaining about anomalous behaviors in the ship's cogitators and servitors. The machine spirits are restless and rebellious, and no tech litany or ritual of pacification can rid them of this obstinacity. The tech priests can deal with the vessel's systems, but the servitors, they make errors in their tasks, disobey orders, change the assigned rituals, or sometimes downright freeze, as if in a trance. A click comes through the Vox channel, followed by a wary sigh. Lord Captain, occurrences such as these are caused by errors in cogitator calculations, or have some other sensible explanation. I beseech you not to take after those who whisper about this ship being cursed or possessed. Hydra joins in on the channel and chimes in playfully. Oh, don't start, old man. All these peculiar happenings have long since turned into local legends. A door slams shut, a lumen starts flickering. Folks have to grow used to all of that. So our resident ghost has decided to up the ante. I'm telling you, things are going to get worse from here. The technomats inspected the servitors and conducted they posed no danger. According to the servants of the Omnici, such behavior is caused either by the echoes of minds not completely eliminated or by manifestations of the machine spirit's will. Nevertheless, the faulty servitors make the crew's task considerably more difficult, and high factotum, that's what I'm going with. Janris Danrock would like to discuss how he should deal with the defective property. He's awaiting your audience on the bridge. Alright, so we gotta go find High Factotum Janris Danrock. Speaking is really difficult. To the bridge. That guy. It's this guy over here. The corpulent man in lavish clothes bows before you, not without difficulty. A servo skull whirs over his shoulder, while the fingers of his augmented hand drum against the sheaf of papers he is holding, and he regards you with attentive interest through the lens of his magnifying implant. Greetings, your lordship. Janris Danrock, at your service. Vigdris informed me that about a problem with the servitors. What happened? You see, your lordship, the ship's servitors have been malfunctioning of late. They violate protocols, interrupt their tasks, observe crew members for long periods of time, and move erratically with no meaning or purpose. Janris Danrock nervously pulls on his luxurious frock coat, as if it were uncomfortably tight. Had it been a routine technical fault, I would have decided the fate of these servitors myself, but I deemed it necessary to notify you. I do not wish to hide such irregularities from the Lord Captain. If you wish to observe the servitors' unusual behavior before you decide their fate, this can be arranged. The majority of the defective units have been delivered to one of the storage compartments, pending your decision. I wish to look at these servitors before deciding their fate. As you wish, your lordship. It's one of these. When his lordship arrived at the scene, he found the servitors in the same position that they assumed after they had been corralled into the bay, all standing in a long spiraling line and facing the center of their strange formation. The moment his lordship crosses the threshold of the bay gate, their bodies jerked into motion. All as one, as if obeying a command, the servitors turned to face the Lord Captain. The technomats, tasked with overseeing the defective units, even reached for their weapons. But then the servitors just went still just as abruptly, staring at his lordship with vacant eyes. Reading is becoming hard today, as it was last time. All present held their breath. Disturbed by this sight, we waited for the Lord Captain to speak. His Lordship, Ignatius von Valencius, demanded a report on the defective unit status from the technomats. The technomats' long-winded and detailed report could have been summarized in a single key point. Despite the servitors' abnormal behavior, they were still quite capable of carrying out tasks, and therefore the circumstances did not call for their termination. Took several steps towards the servitors. Immediately, the servitors, each and every one of them, stepped towards the Lord Captain in perfect unison. They mimicked his movements with frightening precision. The Rouge Trader halted in place and, after a moment's thought, waved his hand. The servitors, just as synchronously, at the same time, repeated that gesture as well. When the Lord Captain turned quizzically to the technomats, so did the servitors, as if mocking him. Whatever the Lord Captain did, be it an incline of his head, a wave of his hand, or a step to the side, the defective units repeated it without a moment's delay or hesitation, like grotesque marionettes controlled by an unseen puppeteer. We observed this mine unfold in distressed bafflement for nearly a minute until the servitors finally came to a stop. Not sensing any threat from them, the Rouge Trader approached with confidence. The Lord Captain examined the servitors. As high factotum, it was I who had prompted that entire inspection, and thus it was my duty to follow the Lord Captain. As we stepped closer, we noticed a fascinating irregularity. The servitors' pupils, normally still, were shaking wildly. Their bulging veins were pulsating under their copper collars, inscribed with their past offenses. It was as if these mindless half-machines were locked in a perpetual state of extreme tension. A visibly shaken technomat behind us proposed that the human souls had awakened within the servitors' bodies after a long slumber deep within their lobotomized brains. Formerly bereft of intelligence, they had attained awareness, feelings, and understanding. After a pause, the technomat added that the servitors used to function properly, and that no one had been able to explain the change in their behavior. His gaze still trained on the motionless but animate half machines and half people. The Lord Captain stepped away from the servitors. All present held their breath. Disturbed by this sight, we waited for the Lord Captain to speak. His Lordship Ignatius von Veneltius ordered that one of the servitors be disassembled and its components investigated. A group of technomats hurried to act upon the Lord Captain's command. The servitor's mechanical parts separated with clicks, snaps, and hisses. The sutures between its wrinkled pale flesh and its augments were laid disgustingly bare. We watched the technomats do their work and could see every centimeter of the servitor's stiff muscles abounding with valves and cavities pierced by countless cords and tubes. The disassembly and analysis complete, the technomats concurred. The unit was in working order. Nothing in the dissected body that lay before us could provide any insight into the reason behind the defects. I should make note of one more thing. At that moment, all of us present discovered that not just the eyes, but the hands and heads and some of the servitors were now shaking too. It was as if the mechanized servants were overcome with some primordial terror. That's the same thing. He turned to me and announced his decision. His lordship looked at me with unwavering resolve, and it was that confidence that wrenched me out of the nightmarish stupor that had me tensely observing the scene unfolding before me. The Lord Captain gave his order. Destroy the servitors, for what was happening to them could spell horrific heresy. The Lord Captain's command was executed post-haste. All defective units were incinerated in furnaces, and their remains were expelled into the void. The crew was provided with replacement servitors, and soon forgot about all destroyed units' peculiarities. Yet this incident haunts my memories to this day. With the fate of the defective servitors decided, nothing could now distract the Lord Captain from his mission. Alright. So we dealt with this here. Point of interest detected. Yeah, we've already checked everything there. So now we're going to go to Ricad Manoris. There was stuff of conflict going on there, and with the prison planet, that bodes poorly. Lord Captain, sorry to disturb you. Vigdis pauses, as if listening to something. It's pandemonium outside the bridge gate. One of the officers seems to be demanding an audience with you in person. I think I hear Master Wersurian's voice. In any case, I wanted to warn you in advance. More troubles on the ship? We shall see. The everyday sounds of the bridge are disrupted by voices raised in anger. Abelard's voice is loudest of them all. This is not the conduct of an officer. These are the antics of a high-born brat out on a lark. Explain yourself, Lieutenant. The young woman standing before Abelard strives with all her might not to quail under the onslaught of her superior's anger. She falters, but then manages to look him in the eye and say, I apologize, sir, but I must speak to the Lord Captain. Very well, Lieutenant. You may address the Lord Captain, not least because I see you have already seen fit to disturb him. Your unauthorized appearance on the bridge and display of belligerence towards a higher-ranking officer will be logged on your personal file without delay. Lord Captain, Lieutenant Avril Vent, requesting permission to speak. Vent falls silent and adds rashly, on a matter of extreme importance and urgency. You may speak, but I want to hear a report, not a shouting match. Having two officers bickering in view of the bridge is unacceptable. I am sorry, Lord Captain. I thought that drastic times called for drastic measures, Vent exclaimed hotly. This matter cannot wait. Any minute now, an assault unit will be dispatched to the lower decks on order to crush the workers' strike by any means necessary. But I am convinced that this step is unwarranted, and that the crisis itself was provoked by the actions of one of the senior officers. Vent is almost trembling with tension as she delivers her speech, her face extremely pale. Abelard, in no hurry to intervene, lets out a skeptical huff. He glances at Saucerback standing not far from him, but she maintains a stony expression. Is that Saucerback there? Lord Captain, I urge you to investigate the actions of Seneschal Werserian and to intervene in what's happening on the lower decks, because very soon we will have a mutiny or a massacre on our hands. Vent reels off the last words as though she knows them by heart. She has clearly been preparing to say them for some time. When she is finished, she casts an anxious look or glance at Abelard, then at you. There's an insurrection in the making aboard my ship, and no one has informed me? I would not deem it a problem worthy of a rogue trader's attention. The lower decks, as it so happens, are in revolt. 30-some years ago, we even had a revolutionary leader rise up who dared to establish workers' rules across the entire ship. It took a month to restore order. But even 8 years later, we were still battling rumors about the hero who survived his execution and was on the verge of gathering people to fight against tyranny once more. Abelard scoffs. Needless to say, the rumors were baseless. As for the current situation, we have sufficient enforcers to deal with it. But on this ship, the word of the Lord Captain carries more weight than a salvo of 100 bolters. I'm sure that if the rogue trader addresses the malcontents directly, he will quell the unrest. I dread to think what problem you will disturb the rogue trader with next. Perhaps you will ask the Lord Captain to break up brawls in the mess room. I have already given you the means to resolve this problem. You simply need to use them. If I may, your lordship, sending a hit squad to crush the rebellion is a means of ignoring the problem, not solving it. How did this all start? The situation could boil over at any minute, so I'll give you the condensed version. It all began when the enforcers found a cultist amulet on the body of someone who'd been killed in a drunken brawl. We reported it up the chain immediately, arranged for a cleansing rite to be performed, and opened an investigation. No heretics have been found alive, but the search has brought tension between enforcers and workers to a head. Where does Seneschal Werserian come into this? I shall explain, Abelard intones grimly. I beg you to hurry. Time is running out. I will not hurry, since my competence is under scrutiny. I shall speak for as long as I see fit. There is an established order to the way things are done on this ship, and one of the pillars of that system is that the Rogue Trader's attention is not distracted by trivial matters. It is the Seneschal's role to ensure that. I have always handled internal problems myself, so of course, when I receive information about cultists hiding on the lower decks, I took the matter in hand. So long as I live, not one of the vermin who murdered Theodora von Valentius will find refuge on her ship. You were far too heavy-handed, Seneschal. Arrests, investigation, mass punishments for entire sectors. It has driven the people to the brink, Vent says bitterly. Now there is a strike on the lower decks, in Depot 4 to be precise. 3 worker clans are involved. Not many more, but many more are passively supporting them. The situation could degenerate into an all-out insurrection. But when I reported my concerns, the only response I received was an order to dispatch an assault unit and crush the strike with maximum force. What is Depot 4? Depot 4 is one of the poorest sections on the lower decks. It is home to clans of general laborers. They are not as valuable to the ship as families who have served its specialized systems for generations. They are an easily replaceable resource, and one which is now, more besides, giving succor to cultists and minions of the arch-enemy. Depot 4 is poor and troubled, but the worst that means drunken fights and illegal rot brewing. We have handled the workers of Depot 4 in the past. We would have done so again if the crackdown on Depot 4 hadn't been so harsh. And another important point to bear in mind, the problem is not limited to this sector. It is located in one of the most populated lower decks, and everything that happens there has a knock-on effect on all the neighboring sectors. Master-at-Arms, the ship's enforcers report to you, and yet you seem hesitant to provide your own perspective. Lord Captain, unlike Lieutenant Vent, I respect the chain of command and realize that it is not within my right to challenge my superiors. Saucerback bows her head in Abelard's direction. However, a moment later, a serpentine smile appears on her lips. That being said, while I entirely share Master Wurserian's opinion on what fate Depot 4 deserves, man, I can't read all of a sudden. Well, not all of a sudden, it's been all day. I must note that this insubordination is a direct consequence of practices that he himself has introduced. Bleh! I'm going to untie my tongue, hopefully before the next reading. Mistress Saucerback, I see you have decided to follow the Lieutenant's example after all. Such behavior does you no credit. Lieutenant Vent, would you say the Seneschal has singled you out from your peers in any way? Lord Captain, I swear that the Seneschal has never granted me any privileges, never once advocated for me or facilitated my promotions, although he is the man who convinced me to become an officer in the first place. He has offered me extensive guidance in my service, for which I am grateful to him, and while not all my fellows receive such attention, I know of at least a dozen fine officers whom the Seneschal keeps in his sights to ensure that they continue to strive. To prepare new generations of the dynasty's servants, to instruct them, to separate those with potential from those who have exhausted it is my duty as a Seneschal. This ship has bays worth of pilots, enforcers, officers, technicians, and stewards I have raised. By the throne, every third person standing on this bridge right now was my student at one point. I see. Evidently, my officers are anything but shining examples of unity and adherence today. I only have myself to blame, I suppose. Abelard, what do you have to say to all of this? I see no need in adding anything. I acted within the merit of my authority, guided exclusively by the best interests of your protectorate and your personal safety. If you wish to confirm the rectitude of my actions for yourself, I have no objections. For my part, I urge the Lord Captain to go down to the lower decks, stop the assault unit, and speak directly to the people. You will see that they are not lying or harboring heretics. That way, you will stop the uprising before it begins. I have heard enough. I will go down to the lower decks and deal with the problem personally. Praise the Emperor! Vent cannot contain her relief. Thank you, Lord Captain. Abelard grits his teeth slightly. An enterprise bordering on the sophomoric. But please yourself, Lord Captain. However, I categorically insist that I escort you. Lord Captain, I regret that the enforcers were unable to handle the situation, which led to your and the Seneschal's involvement. I consider it my duty to go to Depot for myself and see to the expedient resolution of this incident. We have to take Abelard, and then, well, we got the other two. I almost made it through that last bit without messing up breeding. Saran, take that, scum. Look who it is. This is all his fault. All of it. Abelard reflexively wipes the sweat from his brow in a startling human gesture and a telling one. A rare moment where he allows his age and wariness to show through his armor-like veneer of self-assurance. The lower decks are a source of endless problems. Sometimes I dearly regret that we cannot replace all the locals with servitors. Let's keep moving. We need to get to the bottom of this. Something resembling a nest made of thermal insulation material has been made. This is where the workers sleep between their shifts. Okay.
I won't tolerate weakness.
Valves.
I still do not see our purpose in coming here.
Relax, old man. Going for a stroll on the lower deck every once in a while is...
The sounds of a heated discussion reverberate through the ship's bays. Lieutenant Avrila Vent of the ship's enforcers is barring the path of her superior, Master-at-Arms Jocasta Saucerback, who has arrived clad in armor. Judging by their expressions and tone, the standoff has dragged on for some time already and has now reached boiling point. Lieutenant Vent, my patience is wearing thin. I have given you an order. Now get out of my way. I cannot comply with that order, ma'am. Vent looks shaken, but there is fire in her eyes. This is my deck and my sector. So long as this area remains under the Lord Captain's special oversight, no action can be taken without my express permission. There are only 3 people who are authorized to make me stand down: the first officer, the Rouge Trader, and the Emperor himself. So So not all my lessons fall on deaf ears. Abelard mutters in crabby approval. He does not clarify whether he means vent, saucerback looming over her, or both. Your lordship! Noticing you, the two officers snap to attention and salute, their subordinates following in a moment later. We encountered some locals on our way here. Their conduct was outrageous. They even tried throwing things at us. Vent pales slightly. The people are getting desperate, clearly. They saw the assault unit and they decided they had nothing left to lose. I mean, I apologize, your Lord Captain. It is outrageous. I'm sure the people simply didn't recognize you. It wouldn't have occurred to them otherwise. We will deal with them once the current situation is resolved. What's the situation? Your lordship, my people have locked down the bay where the strikers are, including their leaders. We have the situation under control as far as resources allow. Under control, Lieutenant? I come here to lead an investigation unit, and what do I see? The rabble is on the verge of mutiny. There is nothing to investigate. This calls for immediate reprisons? Wow. And firing squads. And you, Vent, are a step away from facing charges yourself. I would speak to the strikers. Abelard's mouth twists, but he restrains himself and says nothing. You're right, Lord Captain. Allow me to wish you luck. Hope gleams in Lieutenant Vent's eyes.
Follow my lead.
A dozen pair of eyes stare apprehensively at you. The people before you are typical inhabitants of the lower decks. You take in their simple clothing, crude weapons, and faces that display varying levels of mutation, from the barely discernible to the strange to the outright grotesque. A whisper passes through the crowd, and you detect a mixture of fear, astonishment, and joy in their reactions. Finally, 3 people break away from the crowd, an elderly woman and 2 men. These must be the leaders. They bow clumsily before you. Lord Captain, you have come down to us. We were attacked on the way here. Can you explain that? Here's an explanation for you. The people have been pushed to their limit, and now they're lashing out. As if we don't know why these top deck units are being sent down here. Like that one there that the lieutenant won't let pass. Our clans are all inside the bays that have been sealed off, but the lower decks are big. I'm sure there are some people who've had just about enough. We are getting it from all sides. The soldiers have encircled the ones who've risen up. A death squad has just arrived. It's no wonder people are lashing out. Their words seem sincere to you, but their body language and glances traded between them reveal that the news of the attack has shocked them. Tell me what is troubling you. Why are you striking? Striking? That's news to us, your lordship, says a tall, thin man in worker's garb. All we're doing is asking questions, saying what we think. Shut up, Rivet, snaps the old woman who turns her hostile dark gazes on you. Here's the deal, your lordship. Your damned enforcers are all over us down here. They say they're looking for cultists. One wrong word and they're reaching for their batons. If they want to punish someone, they turn off the heating for whole bays for a week at a time. So we get sick and freeze. In my clan, 2 little ones died from inflammation in their lungs, all because of those enforcers. The old woman spits on the floor and rubs the spittle with the toe of her worn-out shoe. Argenta does not interrupt the workers, but you see the sadness well in her eyes when the children's deaths are mentioned. She quietly whispers a requiem prayer and makes a sign over herself. It's all true. Vent is the only enforcer officer who stood up for us. It's clear as day who had a mother from the lower decks, and who grew up amidships and has no fellow feelings towards us. The grim man with scarred face throws up their arms. Your lordship, we're no villains here. We're honest workers. Your servants. We've plotted no disorder. We went on strike openly, and now we've got guns pointed at us. All we're doing is asking to be allowed to work in peace without being harassed. Persecution started apropos of nothing, you say. I was told that one of you was found in possession of a cultist amulet, and that there are heretics hiding here. Cultist amulet? What's that? A gewgaw they found on the dead drunkard. If it was something evil or forbidden, we sure didn't know. The enforcers just said they were looking for heretics among us, and anyone obstructing their investigation would be punished. But how could there be heretics here? We know our own people, and there have been no new faces around. Definitely not. And if there were, we'd be the first to report them. And as far as this amulet or whatever it is, they took it off a dead body. There's no cultist still breathing in our sector, that's for sure. But when that fight broke out, some enterprising folks looted bodies. The boots they came back with. Nobody ever treaded these decks in boots so fine. I can tell you that. Seems to me cultists have better commanders than we... Bleh. Seems to me these cultists have better commanders than us. And I'm not liking old Nan. Well, yeah, those boots were real fine. And there was no harm in taking them, right? As for that amulet, it must have been pocketed by someone who didn't know any better. We don't need no amulets here. We all worship the Emperor. And when we're working, we bow down before the machine spirits of the large and small transformers and the servo motor. The same way my grandfather was taught 100 years ago by a tech priest who came calling. Believe us, your lordship, we are people of faith. Naive children. Weren't you taught at an early age about the dangers of the arch-enemy's creations? Weren't you warned that any unfamiliar objects could be one of them? We were told, Holy Sister, but it was long ago. The last time we saw a confessor in our sector, it was just about the time I had my third little one. That is regrettable, but you cannot lay the burden of leading a righteous life on the shoulders of the Holy Fathers. Who will you blame when beasts crawl out of those amulets you stole from the heretics? The Holy Father who was not there, or the scavenger who brought evil down upon himself and his neighbors? Abelard, do you have anything to add? I authorize the use of all necessary measures to locate Chaos worshippers hiding in this sector. The specific steps taken by the officers were not reported to me. Abelard frowns, clearly disgruntled at having to explain himself in the workers' presence. Nevertheless, I am certain that their actions were justified. Cultists are no drunken stevedores. They are the enemy and the threat to this ship. Neutralizing them demands decisive action. Saucerback, Is it really necessary to torture these people with cold? The rabble understands only one language, Lord Captain, that of violence. As per regulations, should the laborers persist in their unwillingness to cooperate, the next step is limiting air supply and cutting off water supply, which is almost certain to restore order. The peasants can grumble all they want, but in the end, they are the source of their own misery. All they have to do is bow their heads and fall in line, and the need for punitive measures will disappear. What changes do you want? Would you look at this? The exalted Lord Captain himself is asking us bilge rats what we want. Well, here's what. We want you to rein in your damned enforcers, to quit turning off the heat, and to stop battering everyone that moves. No, that's not it. We want the enforcers gone from here, and we want to be armed. Give us arms and we'll govern ourselves. We'll defend ourselves if the cultists ever show their faces. I've been leader of my clan for 20 years now. Getting rid of these club-wielding thugs can only improve things around here. You've gone too far, old man. They'll never let us maggots on the lower decks live without enforcers breathing down our necks. They'd probably even insist on enforcers on the upper decks too. As for weapons, what do we need them for? Before the day's out, we'll have someone shooting their neighbor out of stupidity or drunkenness. We don't need that. If the enforcers stop harassing us, that'll be enough. In return, we'll find the scavengers who robbed the cultist bodies and we'll talk to them. One lower decker to another. If there are any more of those damned amulets about, we'll hand them over to the enforcers ourselves. You speak for yourself and your clan, and I'll speak for me and mine. I don't want empty gestures. I want real change. They'll promise the world now, but as soon as the anointed one turns his back, these brutes will be on us even harder than before, all because we dared to speak out. The tall worker's eyes dart between the two arguing leaders. Every few seconds he opens his mouth as if planning to agree, but each time he falls silent, simply making few vague noises of approval. Spreading anarchy on the ship is the first step toward embracing chaos. Putting weapons into untrained hands would be even worse. What's more, the enforcers are needed to maintain oversight and order. Withdraw these demands, and we will consider the rest. The tall worker, they call Rivet, shrugs and casts a sideline look at the old woman. Old Nan, listen! Listen! The Lord Captain himself has come down to us and is offering concessions. And I don't know a single person in the whole of Depot 4 who's ever stood next to the Rouge Trader, let alone talk to them. Back down. Now's no time for you to be a stubborn old crone. Listen to us, old Nan. There are 3 clans of Depot 4, ought to act as one. We've made our minds up. It's your turn to decide. Don't ask them to disband the enforcers or give us weapons. We don't need any of that. The old woman hisses in dissatisfaction. You two are ganging up on me, is that it? So brave of you against an old woman. But I'll shut up. I will indeed. I won't go against the 2 clan leaders on my own. If you want to make peace with the enforcers, make your peace. That's great. Just fantastic. Lord Captain, we are agreed. Then it's decided. Persecutions will stop, and I will expect you to assist in locating any remaining amulets or weapons left by the cultists. Your Lordship, thank you. You have not abandoned us lower deckers. You came yourself and settled everything. I'll tell my grandchildren about this. Of course, your lordship. We'll root out any nasty business faster than the enforcers, and we'll leave no stone unturned. Alright, we kind of extended over our time just a little bit. Thank you guys for watching. I do appreciate it. As always, like, subscribe, and comment. I have been Sir Joseph. You guys are amazing. Until next time, stay safe out there, and I'll talk to you later.